All right, so we're going to start to make your different scenarios using design options. But the first thing that we're going to do is actually duplicate the sheet and the views on the sheet. Revit can only place, if you have a view, it can only be placed on one sheet. It can't be placed on two sheets. So what we're going to do is use a command in Revit that's going to duplicate our sheet and copy all the views. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to rename this assembly detail, and I'll just name it scenario 1. And I'm going to rename it, number it to A121 and click OK. So you'll see it update all of that information. And then what I'm going to do is duplicate it. So all you have to do is right click on the sheet. So again, I'm just right clicking on the sheet and there's a duplicate sheet. And you could duplicate an empty sheet. I don't want to do that. You can duplicate with sheet detailing, or you can duplicate with views. That's what I want to do. So it's going to duplicate the sheet and all of the views. So if I click on this, it asks me duplicate the view as an independent view, duplicate the view and detailing as an independent view. So I'll just do duplicate with detailing. Click on that. And so you're going to see it adds another sheet that looks exactly like that sheet, right? So if I go, and it just puts a little 1 in parentheses. So you can rename this guy, right, to 122, right? And scenario 2, okay? And if you notice, here's the ceiling assembly, the view, 3D view, and the assemblies. And notice that it's done copies of all of those, right? And so what I want to do is be consistent with the naming so I can kind of keep track of it because it's adding all of these views so it can get really confusing. So I'm just going to come to this as ceiling assembly and I'm going to name it ceiling assembly 1, right? And then I'm going to name this one floor assembly 1, and I'm going to name this one wall assembly 1, and then I'm going to name this 3D parallel. I guess we could name it, how about 1.21, so it'll match the sheet, right? Um, and then we're going to come down and rename all of these. So I'll rename this one 1.22, right? And then these will just get 2's after them, right? Because this is our second scenario 2, all right? 2 and 2 and 2, all right? So now we have a new sheet that is our scenario 2. And the next thing that we're going to do is create a design option that's going to allow us to put an entirely different set of walls, ceilings, and floors in here. Now, again, in Rhino, you would copy all this off to the side and make new materials and paint them all and then, render it out and do all this stuff. But in Revit, what's going to happen is this is actually going to happen right on top of each other. And Revit is going to hide things based on the design option that we select. And so it's a little bit more complicated than that. So you can't really see them in a model right next to each other, all of them. You could place them on a sheet next to each other, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. All right, so when I come back, we'll do the design options.